It's Thursday, February 6th.
That does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort.
Changing their tune as the White House tries to clarify U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal to take over Gaza. Some Israeli officials are publicly backing the idea.
A group of 6 individuals were heading towards the Manitoba border.
Border plan in action. The RCMP sharing the details of 3 recent incidents at the Canada-U.S. border in the wake of Trump's tariff threats.
Frustrated, beyond frustrated.
I'm holding it all in. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, frustrated travelers. More than 100 flights canceled because of the cold. That's testing the patience of people who are trying to fly in and out of Alberta.
The plane just kind of jolted. It felt like we were in a car accident. The Delta tail was like lodged into the wing.
How did this happen? A parked plane at the Seattle airport gets its tail clipped by an incoming plane. Stay with us, Canada. Your morning starts right now. Good morning, Canada. Welcome to Your Morning. I'm Anne-Marie Mediwake.
Good morning. I'm Lindsey Deluce.
I'm Kelsey McEwen. Hope your morning's off to a great start.
All right, let's get into news on this Thursday morning. And new this morning, Israel's defense minister speaking out in favor of U.S. President Donald Trump's proposal to take over Gaza. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agrees.
You have to rebuild Gaza. If you want to rebuild Gaza, you can't have... this is the first good idea that I've heard. It's a remarkable idea. And I think it should be really pursued, examined, pursued, and done, because I think it will create a different future for everyone.
Mr. Prime Minister.
So that was Benjamin Netanyahu speaking on Fox News with Sean Hannity Wednesday night. Israel's defense minister is ordering their army to plan for voluntary departures from Gaza. That's what they're calling it. He also says countries that have opposed the war in Gaza should take Palestinians in. However, after U.S. President Donald Trump's comments drew global condemnation, his administration striking a slightly different tone. So Secretary of State Marco Rubio now saying the relocation of Palestinians in Gaza would be temporary. The White House press secretary is saying the U.S. is not planning to put boots on the ground. The RCMP is sharing details of several recent incidents at border crossings, including one that resulted in a man's death.
We have the partnerships, the technology, and the resources in place to respond to the border and stop illegal activity.
On Tuesday morning, a man was sent to secondary inspection at the Alberta-Coutts border crossing. Police say he kept driving instead. RCMP chased him, used a tire deflation device to stop the car, and during the chase, the man shot himself and was pronounced dead. Meanwhile, on Monday, 4 adults and 5 children were found crossing the Coutts border by foot, carrying suitcases. Last month, thermal images captured from an RCMP plane, that's what you're looking at, showed 6 people crossing by foot in Manitoba before being detained. By the way, if you're wondering, no fentanyl was found in any of these cases. Ottawa has been in talks with provinces to bring down trade barriers within our country, and that change could happen quickly.
The provinces and territories are at the table with enthusiasm in a way that has not occurred over the past number of decades.
Transport and Internal Trade Minister Anita Anand is suggesting those trade barriers could come down within 30 days. That means it could happen before the next deadline for new U.S. tariffs. As Canada looks to avoid those tariffs, sources have told CTV News that work has started to name our new so-called fentanyl czar. It's one of the conditions, as we know, for the pause agreed to by U.S. President Donald Trump. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau held his weekly virtual call with premiers yesterday, and he will host a Canada-U.S. Economic Summit tomorrow in Toronto. Canadian media advocates are criticizing the federal government after news that Ottawa is ending its ban on advertising on Meta platforms.
The government of Canada should be advertising in Canada on Canadian media rather than sending the dollars south to the U.S. Meta foments misinformation and disinformation, and the government should be advertising with trusted sources of news.
The federal government is using Meta to advertise the 2-month sales tax break, allocating as much as $100,000 for this campaign. So these ads have been up since late January. marking a reversal of policy that began in 2023 when Meta banned news from its platforms in this country. At the time, Ottawa called the company, quote, irresponsible, but they're now saying it's essential that Canadians receive credible information about government programs. The Meta news ban on Facebook and Instagram is still in effect. Police say 4 people found dead on a Saskatchewan First Nation may have been targeted in a quadruple homicide.
When the File Hills Police Service arrived at the residence, they located 4 individuals deceased inside and immediately determined the circumstances to be suspicious.
The bodies of 2 men and 2 women were found Tuesday on Carry the Kettle, Nakota Nation. In another incident, police have arrested and charged a man accused of pointing a gun at people. This was on Sauganae and Anishinaabe First Nation. Police are working to see if the 2 incidents are connected. Clinics and unions in Quebec are warning the province's plan to keep doctors in the public health sector don't go far enough.
For the doctor, it's a reality. They make more money if you're a doctor and you want to go to the private clinic, you make more money.
I cut him off there. My apologies. So Bill 83 will force new doctors in Quebec to work in the public sector for the first 5 years. Hearings on that bill begin today. Healthcare advocates say it's a step in the right direction, but won't prevent more experienced staff from leaving. Instead, they're calling for an end to privatization of healthcare in the province, warning it brings unequal access to care and a profit-first mentality. Air travelers are frustrated by a backlog of canceled flights blamed on the extreme cold in Alberta.
It was canceled till 8 o'clock this morning. And so I came here for 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock this morning to check in, and it's canceled again.
Oh, that is frustrating. There are a handful of flights showing as delayed or canceled this morning. This is at the Edmonton airport. This is happening after at least 145 flights were canceled across the country earlier this week. WestJet has canceled most of these flights. Similar story in Calgary, where passengers were told by WestJet that they would not be rebooked. In a statement, WestJet says, in part, quote, due to limited availability on WestJet flights or with alternate carriers, it may not be possible to reaccommodate all affected guests within that 48-hour time frame. Meanwhile, investigators are looking into how 2 planes on the ground came into contact with one another at the Seattle airport.
Threat to be outside. Everything's fine. We shut the aircraft down. It'll have to be towed, and then we'll have you, as soon as we can, we'll have it.
Airport officials say the Japan Airlines plane was taxiing when its wing hit the tail of a parked Delta flight. Oof. There were 142 people on their way to Mexico on the Delta plane. They were moved to another flight. The Japan Airlines plane was coming in from Tokyo. No one was hurt, thankfully, and the incident didn't cause too many delays. Ooh, set your calendar alerts. Today marks 1 year until the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy. What? Yes. Ski resorts in Italy's Dolomites are gearing up to co-host the event with Milan. 116 events are scheduled across 16 disciplines in 13 venues, so events. Organizers say these events are spread out over 22,000 square kilometers. The reason is to make use of the infrastructure that already exists rather than to build new venues. 2026 marks the 3rd time Italy will host the Olympics.